I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and things really heating up inside the courtroom in Madison, Wisconsin. Prosecutors putting on a lot of devastating evidence, getting closer and closer, trying to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. But a major development tonight in the case that could put everything in jeopardy. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live tonight from Madison, Wisconsin. Chanley, give us the big breaking news tonight and what it means.
We have just confirmed with the defense team, Chandler Halderson has tested positive for COVID-19, Vinny. This means the trial could be delayed. The judge will speak to the jury tomorrow morning. He will determine whether or not things will resume as normal or if he will take a break for about a week and resume next Tuesday for Chandler Halderson to recover from this diagnosis. Now, this news does come, Vinny, after the AP has reported a record-breaking COVID numbers in the Dane County Jail here in Madison, Wisconsin, where the defendant Chandler Halderson is being held. In fact, the National Guard was summoned to help test the nearly 600 inmates there at the county jail, given that 90 had already tested positive for this, and now Chandler Halderson adding to those numbers.
Okay. Are there any sort of testing protocols for everyone involved? We know the way this thing is spreading, right? He apparently may have contracted it behind bars, during the course of this trial. But he's in the courtroom every day. Describe the protocols in this courtroom and what exactly the rules are. Are people being tested every day? Is the jury get tested? How are they dealing with it right now?
I'm not aware of any testing for those inside the courtroom, but there are social distancing protocols inside the courtroom, and everyone must wear a mask in public places all over Dane County. That's mandatory here. So everyone does have a mask on. We see that. The jury has a mask on, but they are seated very close together. They are not socially distanced inside that jury box, Vinny. And as you can see, sometimes the witness will even remove his or her mask if they feel comfortable and testify inside the courtroom. I haven't seen what we sometimes see, which is the cleaning of certain areas in between witnesses here. But as far as Chandler Halderson, he is escorted in and out with 2 deputies by his side. He sits very close, of course, to his defense team there with his mask on.
Well, that's the other part of this. I mean, this thing spreading like wildfire, we know about that. It apparently spreads through the air. We don't know exactly how much protection masks provide, and it depends what type of mask, how are you wearing it, how close are you, how contagious could you be. Was there any indication at any point that he was symptomatic in the courtroom? And, were there times where he didn't look right, or they had to take a break, or, he didn't look right, or, anything that happened during the course of this?
It's coincidental. I actually reported his demeanor today. He was almost as if he was on another planet. It was like he wasn't here at all. And then a few minutes later, learned that he had tested positive for COVID. So possibly he's feeling some of the symptoms. He doesn't feel good inside the courtroom because, as I've been reporting to you this entire trial, he sits there almost motionless, not showing really any emotion and not really moving around. He sometimes will write on his notepad and talk to his attorneys, but it's a very odd situation. I know he has a mask on his face and we can't really see that, but I've observed a lot of defendants over the years here at Court TV, and he was one that just doesn't seem to be fully engaged with the proceeding.
This is problematic. Now, how far along are we in this prosecution case? Because I'm looking at this saying, okay, is this thing going to spread from perhaps the defendant to maybe an attorney, maybe a juror, whatever, that they may have to, cancel this trial? How far along are we here?
Well, the prosecution told the judge at the end of the day, Vinny, that they expected to rest their case on Friday, which means we could have been in closing arguments on Friday at some point. They flew through at least 9 more witnesses today, picking up the pace again, and so they anticipated to wrap up by the end of the week. Now with this delay, if the judge does delay it tomorrow, we may not pick up the case until next week, but we do know there are several still experts waiting in the wings to wrap up all the loose ends for the prosecution.
Yeah, and there's a lot that can happen in between, right? I mean, the jury's not sequestered. They're going home. They're living normal lives at home, as well as everyone else involved in the case, the lawyers, the judge. This is problematic, but it's part of what we are dealing with now in courtrooms across the country. So, all right, so tomorrow morning, the judge will make some determination on how they're going to proceed. So that's big news here. Today, though, was also a big day in terms of the testimony, and what caught a lot of people's attention, a lot of people talking about, was what was happening in that fireplace and what people were smelling in the air. Tell us about that.
Very disturbing details coming out today. It started with a neighbor of the Halderson home taking the stand, talking about how in the July 2nd of this year, he smelled some pungent barbecue type scents that he even had to get up and kind of walk around to see who's barbecuing right now. The smell was so strong. And then the jury heard from a special agent, an arson expert who evaluated the Halderson's fireplace, Vinny. He talked about uncovering human bones in this fireplace and talking about what the smell of human remains would emit. Let's listen.
Was there any sort of scent that made any, that gave you any impression or that raised your attention at all?
Yes, there was.
And tell me about that.
When I'll talk about by example first, because it'll be somewhat maybe gruesome toward the end. When in the performance of my normal duties, if we are out conducting a fire death investigation and we're looking to recover human remains inside a structure that may be buried beneath debris, that may be in collapse, whatever it might be, we rely very much on our senses sometimes to get us there. Sometimes it's a sense of sight. Sometimes it is feel. You can sometimes walk over top of human remains that are beneath ash and not know it until you feel a difference in what you're standing on. And sometimes it is smell. And I equate that smell very often because I love to barbecue. It smells like barbecued pork oftentimes, or the grease that you would get from barbecuing a pork shoulder. And this is the smell that I associated with what I was gathering from inside that fireplace when I was down in front of it and working near it.
Vinny, this testimony came after the jury watched about 40 minutes of surveillance video from a neighbor, a different neighbor's home, where an analyst zoomed in on the window in the back of the Halderson home where the fireplace would be. And this is video from the early morning hours of July 2nd. And the testimony was that it flickered for several hours. Again, the state wanting this jury to believe that the defendant not only murdered his parents, but then tried to burn their remains in that family fireplace, emitting that smell across the neighborhood, and the video picking up that evidence for this jury.
Do we know who and what body parts prosecutors believe was in that fireplace?
We know from opening statements that this jury will eventually learn that the skulls of both Bart and Krista Halderson were found in that fireplace, Vinny.
Wow. Okay. Chanley Painter, tomorrow morning, big decision by this judge. This is unprecedented. We don't know how a judge is going to handle this, what the judge is going to do, but I know you'll be reporting it first thing. Thank you so much. Let's bring in our think tank right now. Joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, law professor at Texas Southern University, Michael Sterling's with us. In Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner, and also in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Great to see everyone tonight. Let's start with the professor, Michael Sterling. This is uncharted waters for us. We've got a defendant now testing positive, tons and tons of cases in the jail. He's been inside that courtroom. What does the judge do tomorrow? How do you handle this? Do you call a timeout? What do you do?
Yeah, I think the judge will call a timeout, Penny. COVID-19 is still relatively new. You don't want to test the impacts of it, find out later somehow that it caused people to have some impact in terms of their cognitive ability. You want to play it safe, right? You want to play it safe to make sure that you only try the case one time, that you don't get overturned on appeal. And if the judge intends on playing it safe and keeping everybody What you want to do is call a timeout and say, okay, we're going to wait until we get a negative test from the defendant before we proceed. So I think that's probably the most judicious thing to do. I anticipate the judge will likely call a timeout.
And Bremner, there's a long weekend coming up. I could see next Tuesday as being a target date for this. But between now and next Tuesday, I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the attorneys. I don't know what's going to happen with the judge. I don't know with the prospective jurors. This is so challenging right now. This is probably the most challenging time throughout this entire pandemic to try to keep and retain a jury trial going.
Right. I mean, it's like it's everywhere now. And the virus, everywhere you see reports of people having it, everything else. I think the judge can have a hiatus. We had that in the Susan Cox Powell case for the death of her kids. Our jury was impaneled and was recessed in March when the pandemic first started. Remember how long ago that was? And then we were on hiatus for 3 months. And then we came back. It was an in-person trial during the pandemic. The jury awarded $115 million against the state for the boys' deaths. So I look at that and I think, well, is that different than now? Well, it is, because you've got the specter of, like you said, Vinny, nearly everybody in this courtroom being infected. Especially, I was surprised by the lack of protocols. If you're not socially distanced. I've been watching the trial. I've been watching it all day today on court TV, along with everybody else. And you've got witnesses, and the only witness that put on a mask today that I remember was medical. So the specter of contagion around the courtroom is there. So it is unprecedented. I guess the judge could recess, have a hiatus for maybe a month. I don't think 5 days will do it, or mistry the case and start over.
I don't know if the judge wants to mistry. I mean, he might have to, right? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But Josh Schiffer, so with all this happening, is anyone prejudiced by this? Or we're all in it together, right? The same for the prosecution, same for the defense. Is anyone prejudiced by this development and what it means here going forward?
Everybody learns something when they've had time to sit back and reflect on what's transpired in a trial, and timing and how feelings percolate and resonate with both the lawyers trying the case and figuring out their strategy, as well as with the jury. There's the old adage about time heals all wounds. After a little bit of sitting back, anything that was really aggravating to the jury, that might get dulled. Now, at the same time, the facts in this case are unbelievably egregious. From everything I've seen, this case is extraordinarily strong for the state, and I'm willing to bet there was no offer that they could make, so they're forcing a trial in some sense of the word, because they want to show that they're doing a good job for the state. It might be more efficient now that part of the trial has been done to reopen plea negotiations, because I agree with Mike and Ann. This judge is in a tough spot. They rolled the dice at the beginning of this trial with relaxed protocols, and unfortunately, they came up craps with a sick defendant that they cannot proceed with. There's not going to be a legally justifiable reason to keep going. The judge is going to have to make the hard call, and who knows how that affects the process in whole.
Absolutely. We're going to say tomorrow morning, folks, the judge has to make this decision and figure out how to handle all of this, and we'll find out.